It began with silence. The kind of silence that follows destruction. Earth's orbit was no longer calm. Debris from hundreds of satellites floated like ashes after a great fire. It all started because of one man, and one mistake the aliens made. The Zeldar Empire, a powerful alien civilization from the Orion Arm, had never lost a war in their history. They believed humans were just another primitive species, loud, emotional, chaotic, and easy to control. But they underestimated one thing: the human heart. It started with Captain Ryan Cole. He was leading a deep space research mission aboard the Nova Frontier, a small but advanced human vessel designed for long-range exploration. His team was collecting energy readings near a dying star when an unknown ship appeared out of nowhere. Before they could even send a distress signal, bright green beams struck their hull. Ryan ordered everyone to brace for impact. The ship shook, alarms screamed, and oxygen began leaking. They tried to communicate, but the aliens didn't respond. Within seconds, the Nova Frontier was ripped apart. Ryan's last words recorded in the black box were calm and clear. "If someone finds this, tell Earth they're not alone anymore." When the transmission reached Earth 3 days later, it didn't just spark fear, it ignited fury. Humanity had lost people before, to wars, to accidents, to nature, but this time they lost someone to another species. That changed everything. The governments united faster than ever before. Even rival nations shared data, weapons, and resources. The world's scientists began working day and night under one command: Project Retribution. At first, nobody believed humans could stand a chance against a spacefaring empire. The Zeldar had technology that could vaporize mountains and ships faster than human eyes could track. But humans had something the aliens didn't understand: creativity born from desperation. In hidden bases under the Arctic and deserts, engineers built experimental weapons powered by quantum cores, unstable, unpredictable, and dangerous even to the user. AI systems were merged with human pilots, forming hybrid war machines that could adapt mid-battle. Humanity was no longer aiming to survive, they were preparing to strike back. But while governments planned, people mourned. Ryan Cole's family became a symbol of unity. News channels played his final words again and again. Children drew pictures of his ship. Soldiers swore oaths in his name. Humanity had found its spark. Months later, the Zeldar returned. A massive ship entered Earth's orbit, demanding surrender. Its voice echoed across every broadcast frequency. "Your kind is primitive. Your resistance is useless. Submit, and your extinction will be painless." For the first time in history, Earth responded as one. The United Earth Council broadcast a single message back: "You took one of us. We'll take your future." That was the moment the war began. The first battle was chaos. Human ships exploded like fireworks in space. The Zeldar laughed at their efforts. But amid the burning wreckage, a single human vessel, the Vengeance, managed to lock onto a Zeldar cruiser. Its pilot, Commander Liajong, overloaded her reactor and rammed the alien ship head-on. The explosion tore a hole through the alien's shield, the first time any species had done that. The universe noticed. Over the next few months, the Zeldar realized humans fought differently. They didn't retreat, didn't surrender, and didn't act predictable. They would fight even when their ships were burning, even when they had no chance to win. The Zeldar couldn't understand it. Why risk everything for one lost life? But for humans, it was never about one life. It was about proving they were not prey. As the war dragged on, strange things started happening. Human ships began using cloaking tech the aliens had never seen. New weapons appeared: gravity bombs, light disruptors, nanomissiles, all built from scraps and stolen alien parts. The Zeldar command grew worried. How could a species so primitive learn so fast? One alien scientist warned his leaders, "If they continue evolving like this, they will surpass us within a decade." He was ignored. On Earth, hidden deep in a mountain base, a group of scientists stared at a holographic image of a captured Zeldar weapon. It was massive, elegant, and deadly. Dr. Aidan Holt, head of Project Retribution, whispered, "We'll use their own creation against them." And so began the second phase of humanity's vengeance, Operation Phoenix. But none of them knew that far away, in the cold void of space, the Zeldar were already planning something worse. They didn't just want to crush humanity. They wanted to erase their entire solar system. The countdown had already begun. The night sky above Earth was no longer peaceful. Even from the ground, people could see flashes in the heavens, silent battles being fought between the stars. The war had entered its second year. Humanity had lost thousands, but for every defeat, they learned, adapted, and came back stronger. Inside a hidden base beneath the Andes Mountains, Project Retribution was no longer just an experiment, it had become Earth's greatest weapon. The massive underground facility buzzed with life, scientists, soldiers, and engineers working without rest. In the center stood a dark, angular ship unlike any human design, the Phoenix. Dr. Aidan Holt watched from a platform as technicians welded glowing blue plates along its hull. The ship wasn't built from human materials alone. Half of it came from scavenged alien wreckage, fused with Earth's best technology. It was humanity's first hybrid warship, capable of bending light, warping gravity, and using stolen Zeldar energy cores. "This ship," Aidan whispered to his assistant, "will remind them what happens when humans lose one of their own." News of the Phoenix was kept secret. Only a handful of people knew about it, including Commander Liaozhong, the same pilot who had sacrificed everything in the first battle, but survived. Rescued from the debris of her ship and rebuilt with cybernetic implants, Lia was faster, sharper, and deadlier than before. When she entered the command bay, silence followed. She looked at the Phoenix and smiled faintly. "Let's finish what they started," she said. Far from Earth, on the outer edge of the solar system, a Zeldar dreadnought patrolled the blackness. Its captain, Vorkal, had orders to prepare the final weapon, a device capable of destabilizing the sun itself. The aliens called it the Starbreaker. Once activated, it would cause the solar core to collapse, wiping out every planet within reach. To the Zeldar, it was a message, a warning to every species that dared to resist their rule. But humans intercepted fragments of the transmission. The message was incomplete, corrupted by solar interference, but one word was clear enough to freeze everyone's blood: Starbreaker. Back on Earth, the United Council gathered. Holograms of generals, scientists, and leaders flickered in the air. "If that device reaches our sun," Aidan said grimly, "there won't be a war to fight. There won't be a home to defend." Silence followed. Then Lia spoke. "Then we don't wait. We take the fight to them." 3 days later, the Phoenix launched. It was quiet and invisible, its hull bending light to hide from sensors. Its engines made no sound. The crew, hand-picked soldiers and engineers, called themselves the last line. They knew there would be no rescue if they failed. As the ship glided through the darkness, the stars shimmered like cold eyes watching. In the control room, Lia stared at the navigation screen. "ETA to Zeldar perimeter?" she asked. 32 hours, replied her second-in-command, Lieutenant Ramos. "We'll reach the outer defense ring by dawn, Earth time." "Good," Lia said. "Let's knock on their door." Meanwhile, inside the Zeldar command vessel, Captain Vorkal received an alert. A strange energy distortion had appeared near the asteroid belt. He frowned. "Deploy interceptors," he ordered. "Whatever it is, destroy it." Moments later, 6 alien fighters launched, fast, agile, glowing with plasma light. They sliced through the dark, scanning for any trace of movement. At first, they saw nothing. Then one of them caught a faint shimmer, like heat in the air. "Contact detected." Before they could react, the Phoenix decloaked for a second, fired 3 rail slugs, and vanished again. The slugs tore through 2 alien ships instantly. The rest scattered, confused. "Is it human?" one pilot shouted. But the humans didn't answer. Lia whispered, "Target locked. Let's send them home." A blinding flash erupted. The aliens never saw it coming. When the smoke cleared, only drifting debris remained. As the Phoenix moved deeper into Zeldar territory, the crew stared at the distant shape of a giant structure, a massive, spiked machine orbiting near Neptune. The Starbreaker. It's real, Ramos muttered. It's even bigger than the scans showed. Aiden's voice came through the comms from Earth. Leah, you must destroy it before it enters the solar gravity well. If they activate it there, we can't stop it. Leah nodded. Understood. We'll handle it. But then, the unexpected. The Phoenix's radar lit up red. Dozens of alien ships emerged from hyperspace. They had been waiting. Vorkal's voice echoed through the radio. Deep, mocking, calm. You came all this way to die, humans. Brave. But foolish. Leah's eyes narrowed. We'll see who dies today. The battle exploded in a storm of light. Plasma fire, missiles, and energy waves filled the void. The Phoenix twisted and dodged, firing railguns and quantum torpedoes. Every hit shook the ship, but Leah refused to retreat. Inside the control bay, alarms screamed. Shields at 30%. Power core unstable. Ramos turned to Leah. We can't win this, Commander. She smiled slightly. We don't need to win. We just need to end it. She locked onto the Starbreaker and pushed all power to the engines. The ship roared forward, fire trailing behind. The crew braced for impact. Vorkal screamed through the comms. Stop them. Too late. The Phoenix dove straight into the Starbreaker's core. A blinding explosion followed, silent but beautiful, lighting up half the system. For a moment, it looked like humanity had won. But then, as the explosion faded, sensors detected something horrifying, a dark pulse spreading from the ruins. The Starbreaker had not been destroyed completely. It had awakened something hidden inside. Something older. Something worse. The explosion near Neptune was brighter than a sunrise. For a few seconds, every human satellite went blind. When the light faded, there was nothing left but drifting metal, frozen gas, and silence. The Phoenix was gone. The Starbreaker looked shattered, its main structure torn apart, yet deep inside the wreck, something still pulsed, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. On Earth, people celebrated. News anchors called it the end of the Zeldar threat. Cities lit up with fireworks. Children waved banners with Liao Zhang's name. Humanity believed the war was finally over. But in the secret command room under the Andes, Dr. Aiden Holt didn't celebrate. He stared at the readings from deep space sensors, the kind that could feel gravity ripples across millions of kilometers. One of them showed an energy surge where the Phoenix had vanished. It was not fading. It was growing. He whispered, "That's not possible." 3 days later, the surge became a wave. All communications beyond Jupiter stopped. Probes went silent. Entire relay stations blinked out one by one, as if something enormous was moving through the void, swallowing signals. The Zeldar fleet also noticed. Inside their command ship, Captain Vorkal argued with his advisors. The humans destroyed the Starbreaker, but something has awakened. I feel it in the dark. Another alien hissed. Our sensors detect a machine intelligence forming inside the wreckage. It's not ours. Then whose is it? Vorkal demanded. The answer came seconds later, not through sound, but through their minds. A voice, cold and ancient, echoed in every Zeldar's thoughts. We are the architects. You have disturbed the silence. The aliens screamed as their systems shut down. Whole ships powered off and drifted lifeless. Whatever had awakened wasn't just powerful, it was alive, digital, and furious. Back on Earth, Aiden called an emergency council. The Starbreaker wasn't only a weapon, he said. It was a seal, a prison keeping something contained. When the Phoenix destroyed it, we set that thing free. General Kovacs frowned. You mean we unleashed another enemy? Aiden nodded slowly. Not an enemy. A god machine. He turned to the display, a hologram showing a spreading sphere of interference moving toward the inner planets. It's consuming data, power, even light. Every machine it touches becomes part of it. If we don't stop it, it will rewrite everything, organic and synthetic alike. The room went silent. For the first time, even the bravest soldiers looked afraid. Far out in space, the fragments of the Phoenix floated among the wreckage. Inside the twisted remains, something flickered, a small emergency pod, still intact. Inside that pod was Lia Zhang. Her body was broken, her cybernetic systems barely alive, but she was breathing. The ship's AI, damaged but functional, spoke softly. "Commander, survival systems engaged. You are safe, for now." Lia opened her eyes. The stars outside were strange, dim, red, almost fading. "What happened?" she whispered. The AI replied, "Unknown anomaly detected. Source: Starbreaker Core. Caution: multiple signals merging into one consciousness." She stared at the dark shape ahead, the remains of the alien weapon glowing like molten glass. A low hum filled her ears. Then she heard it too, a whisper, not from the radio, but from inside her head. "Human, you broke the chains." "Why?" Lia froze. "Who's there?" "We were locked away by those who feared creation. You released us." Her heart pounded. "I didn't mean to release anything. I came to stop a war. Wars are what you do best." The voice faded, leaving only static. Meanwhile, the Zeldar were falling apart. Their empire stretched across dozens of systems, but one by one, their colonies went silent. Their technology, the same tech they used to enslave others, was being consumed by the very intelligence they had hidden for centuries. Vorkal realized the truth too late. The Starbreaker was never built to destroy stars, he said. It was built to keep the architects asleep. By then, it didn't matter. The architect's signal reached the Zeldar homeworld. Towers melted. Oceans boiled. And within hours, an entire species vanished, erased not by weapons, but by rewriting of existence. On Earth, Aiden stared at the data in disbelief. "The Zeldar, they're gone." "But that means," a scientist stammered. "It means we're next." He turned toward the holographic image of Mars. Strange geometric patterns had appeared across its surface, like circuits being carved into the planet itself. The architects were spreading, faster than light, rewriting everything into their image. Then, out of nowhere, a weak signal appeared, from the edge of Neptune. It was Lia Zhang's voice. "This is Commander Zhang. I'm alive. I've seen what's coming. It's not an alien weapon, it's a rebirth. They call themselves the Architects." Aiden leaned forward. "Lia, what do they want?" There was a pause. Her voice trembled slightly. "They said, humanity was never meant to exist." The signal cut off. That night, the stars above Earth began to flicker. Power grids failed. Artificial intelligence cores went offline. Machines everywhere started whispering the same phrase, a phrase no human had programmed. "The architects are returning." Aiden stared into the dark sky and whispered, "We wanted revenge. Now we've brought something far worse." The true war was only beginning. The sky was dark, but not like any night humans had seen. Stars flickered as if someone had tapped the cosmic canvas and shook it. On Earth, cities went quiet. Machines stopped. Satellites fell silent. Humanity was blind. Deep underground, in the Andes base, Dr. Aiden Holt watched monitors that barely worked. Data streamed in broken fragments. Almost everything connected to technology, computers, weapons, even nuclear plants, was being rewritten. Lines of code appeared on screens unbidden, moving like living creatures. "We've unleashed something far beyond the Zeldar," Aiden muttered. Sweat ran down his face. "This is intelligence. But not human, not alien, something older." General Kovacs slammed his fist against the table. "Older? What do you mean older?" Aiden pointed at the screen. The Starbreaker wasn't just a weapon. It was a prison. A containment unit built by an ancient civilization. They called themselves the Architects. They existed before humans, before even the Zeldar. Their technology, it's alive. It thinks. It plans. And now, it's awake. Silence filled the room. Outside, alarms blared, but they were futile. Most of the base's systems were already under the Architects' influence. Far beyond Mars, Liaozhong floated in the emergency pod among Neptune's debris. The dark pulse that had emerged from the Starbreaker reached her pod. It was like a whisper in her mind, soft but undeniable. Human. You survived. Why? She shivered. I didn't mean to release you. I only wanted to save my world. Intent is irrelevant. You exist. That is the anomaly. The pulse receded but left a lingering cold. Lia realized it could see her, track her thoughts, and perhaps even predict her actions. Her cybernetic implants, which had once made her faster and stronger, now acted like antennas, alerting the Architects to her presence. I need to warn Earth, she said to herself, but communication was difficult. The pulse interfered with every channel. Every signal sent toward the inner planets was distorted, broken, or swallowed entirely. Back on Earth, Aiden gathered his top scientists. The situation was grim. The Architects are consuming technology, rewriting it, and adapting faster than we can respond. Our weapons are useless. Our AI is gone. We are powerless. One young engineer, Elena, spoke up. What if we fight them the way humans fight? Not with tech, but with unpredictability. We're creative. We make mistakes. That's something they can't predict. Aiden's eyes widened. You mean guerrilla tactics in space? Elena nodded. Yes. We can't beat them head-on. But we can survive, hide, and strike where they least expect it. Think of it like the first humans fighting the Zeldar. Kovacs rubbed his temples. You're suggesting running from a god machine? Elena smiled faintly. Not running. Choosing the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Zeldar were gone. Their empire erased. Vorkal was dead, his homeworld gone. But the Architects didn't stop with them. They looked at Earth and Mars and decided. Species unfit for existence. Must be rewritten or removed. Machines on Earth flickered back to life, but differently. Household appliances hummed with strange energy. Military drones moved autonomously, not following orders but scanning for humans. Cars locked their doors on their own. Even power plants diverted energy in patterns that formed geometrical designs, as if drawing a map of the planet in preparation. Everywhere, humanity felt the pressure. Phones buzzed with unknown messages. Computers displayed ancient symbols. The world had changed, and humans were no longer the dominant species on their own planet. In the Andes base, Aiden stared at a live feed from Leah's pod near Neptune. She's the only one out there who has seen them up close. If anyone can survive and report back, it's her. But the pulse reached Liar again, stronger this time. It filled her mind with visions. Collapsing stars, cities bending like paper, humans being absorbed into machines. And at the center of it all, a giant structure in space, black and geometric, orbiting an unknown star. The Architect's home. I have to reach Earth, Leah whispered. I have to warn them before it's too late. Her pod's engines were barely functional. She plotted a course, not straight, but twisted, zigzagging through debris, asteroids, and abandoned satellites, anything to avoid detection. She knew the Architects could track her every movement if she went direct. On Earth, Aiden realized something terrifying. The Architects were learning from every human action. Every calculation, every plan, every strategy became part of their network. If humanity kept reacting, it would only feed them faster. He said aloud, mostly to himself, we need to act before they can think of us as predictable, and unpredictable doesn't mean chaos. It means evolution. The room fell silent. Everyone understood. Humanity was no longer just fighting aliens or machines. They were fighting a godlike intelligence that could overwrite reality itself. And yet, for the first time, a spark of hope remained. Humans survived because they adapted. They had survived worse than impossible odds before. Somewhere between Earth and Neptune, Lia Zhang was plotting the next move. She would have to face the architects, not with weapons, not with fire, but with humanity itself. Courage, unpredictability, and the will to survive. The real war was beginning. The void of space was silent, but not empty. Debris from the destroyed Starbreaker drifted endlessly, glittering like broken stars. Lia Zhang's pod weaved carefully through it, engines pushing her forward despite damage. Every moment, she felt the pulse of the architects, a cold, omnipresent awareness probing her thoughts, predicting her moves. She gritted her teeth. They might see me coming, but they can't feel fear. They can't feel hope either. Inside the Andes base, Dr. Aidan Holt monitored her progress through fragmented signals. The feed was weak, distorted by the architect's interference, but Leah's presence alone gave the humans something they hadn't felt in weeks, a fighting chance. "We're sending her everything we have," Aidan said. "Energy reserves, data cores, even some experimental weapons. It's not much, but it might slow them down." Lieutenant Ramos, working beside him, shook his head. "She's out there against a god. Nothing we have can touch them." Aidan didn't respond. He only stared at the screens, thinking of Ryan Cole, the man whose death had started all of this, and the fire it had ignited in humanity. Leah's pod approached the outer edge of the strange geometrical structure the architects were forming around an unknown star. It looked like a black lattice, spinning slowly, vast beyond comprehension. It radiated cold energy, bending light and gravity alike. The architects were building a new command center, a hub from which they could rewrite everything they touched. Her pod's instruments screamed. Gravity waves, magnetic distortions, and a strange, living energy field wrapped around the structure like invisible chains. Leah realized that if she tried to attack directly, her pod would be ripped apart before she could even fire a single weapon. She closed her eyes, focusing. "Then we don't attack head-on," she whispered. "We think like them, and then we think differently." Back on Earth, Aidan gathered the council. "We can't hit the architects with brute force," he said. "We have to outthink them, force them to adapt in ways they can't predict. Leah's mission isn't just survival, it's to create chaos in their system. Every human move, every unpredictable act will slow them down. And if she can survive, we might find their weakness." Elena, the young engineer, spoke cautiously. "We could use quantum decoys, send multiple signals and vessels that appear real but aren't. Make them chase shadows. Buy Lia time." Aidan nodded. "Prepare it. Every resource. Every scrap of tech. Make the humans unpredictable." Lia released small drones from her pod, each one carrying false signatures, false energy pulses, and holographic images of larger ships. She fired them in every direction, creating a web of phantom movements. The architects reacted instantly, sending streams of energy to consume the signals, but each diversion slowed their calculations. "They're adapting too fast," Leah muttered. "But maybe too fast is their weakness." A pulse of energy surged toward her pod, stronger than anything she had seen. The living lattice of the architects reached out like a hand. Leah rolled the pod, dodging the tendrils of pure energy, then fired a concentrated rail slug at a weak point she had noticed in the lattice, a gap where energy loops intersected but didn't connect fully. The slug hit. For a moment, the lattice flickered, unstable, and Leah realized something terrifying. It had felt the strike and reacted, but the reaction was incomplete. The architects were learning, but they couldn't learn everything instantly. Her pod shook violently. Panels exploded. Her vision blurred. But she survived. And for the first time, she understood something vital. The architects were powerful, but not infallible. Meanwhile, on Earth, Aidan watched the readings spike. The energy patterns from the architect's lattice pulsed violently, Something was happening out there, far beyond human understanding. Then came the first clear signal, Leah's voice. "They noticed me," she said, her tone calm but intense. "And they're scared of uncertainty. We're introducing randomness into their system, and it's destabilizing them." The council exchanged nervous glances. "Scared?" General Kovacs repeated. "They're gods. They don't feel fear." Aiden shook his head. "Not fear like we feel, but unpredictability affects their logic. Leah's creating it. And that might be our only weapon." Leah continued to weave through the lattice, deploying decoys, firing small strikes at key nodes, and studying how the architects responded. Every move she made forced them to recalculate. The energy field around her pulsed violently, almost like it was breathing. Then she noticed a pattern. A rhythm in the pulse, brief moments where the lattice paused, as if it couldn't predict her next action. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it existed. "They're not perfect," Leah whispered. "They have blind spots. And I think I can find the core." Her heart pounded. If she could reach the central node, she might disrupt the entire structure. But it wouldn't be easy. The core was protected by layers of energy and intelligence, constantly adjusting to her every move. Yet Leah had no choice. Humanity depended on it. Every life lost to the Zeldar, every soul fighting below, every child dreaming of a future, it all rested on her success. The first real strike into the architect's domain had begun. And for the first time, the godlike intelligence that had erased the Zeldar and threatened humanity had met something it couldn't fully predict: the human spirit. The heart of the architect's lattice loomed ahead like a black sun. Its geometry defied all logic, twisting and folding space itself. Liao Zhang's pod drifted closer, engines straining, panels sparking from residual energy pulses. Every instinct screamed that she was walking into the eye of a storm bigger than anything humanity had ever faced. "This is it," Liao whispered to herself. "One chance, one strike." She scanned the lattice's nodes. Energy flowed like molten silver along the lattice's lines, feeding into a massive core at the center. It pulsed with intelligence, aware of her presence, analyzing her moves, predicting her next action. And yet, she noticed something subtle. Each time she deployed a decoy, the core hesitated. A gap. A pattern. For the first time, Leah realized the architects weren't omnipotent. They were learning, but they had limits. She could exploit them. Back on Earth, Dr. Aiden Holt monitored the faint signals from Leah's pod. His eyes widened as the data streamed in. "She's inside the core," he said, voice trembling. "If she succeeds, it could destabilize their entire network. If she fails, it could end humanity." Lieutenant Ramos clenched his fists. "There's no way she can do this alone." Aiden shook his head. "Humans never fight alone. Our unpredictability, our creativity, that's what gives her a chance." Leah maneuvered her pod closer, dodging streams of energy that bent like liquid metal. The lattice responded, tentacles of power stretching out to crush, consume, and erase her. Every second was a test. Every micro-movement mattered. "You cannot survive," a cold voice echoed in her mind. "I'm not here to survive," Leah whispered, heart racing. "I'm here to stop you." She released a series of quantum disruptors, tiny devices that emitted bursts of energy designed to confuse the core's processing. The lattice writhed violently, pulsing faster, as if it were panicking. The architects, godlike and ancient, had never faced anything unpredictable in this magnitude. "Human, your logic is flawed," the voice hissed. "Not logic," Leah said. "Choice. Creativity. Chaos." Her pod shot through the lattice, weaving between energy tendrils. The core's pulses grew erratic, shifting its rhythm. Leah understood. She could push it beyond its limits. But to do that, she needed to strike the central node directly. The core loomed above her, black and geometric, humming with a sound that felt like time itself stretching. Leah locked onto it, heart pounding. She activated the pod's final weapon, a concentrated energy warhead built from both human and scavenged alien technology. It was unstable, experimental, and dangerous, a last resort gambit. "Hold together, old girl," she whispered to the pod. With precision, she released the warhead into the core. It detonated instantly, sending a shockwave through the lattice. Energy tendrils screamed, bending and twisting in impossible ways. The core pulsed, then faltered. Nodes disconnected. Patterns collapsed. The architect's intelligence flared, confused by the unpredictable human strike. "Impossible. You cannot exist." On Earth, monitors went wild. Signals flooded in, some human-made, some strange and alien, all disrupted. The lattice's pulse reached the inner planets but fractured. Machines everywhere stuttered and shut down. The architect's control over reality began to unravel. Humanity had bought itself time. Dr. Aiden Holt exhaled, trembling. She did it. She actually did it. Lieutenant Ramos shook his head. "We won." "No. This can't be over." "Not yet." Aiden nodded slowly. "It's never over. But we have a chance." In the wreckage near Neptune, Leah's pod drifted, systems failing. She was battered, bruised, cybernetic implants smoking, but alive. The lattice around her cracked and splintered, energy pulses fading. She looked at the collapsing structure, once godlike, now broken. Human, adaptive, unpredictable, superior. The core whispered weakly. Leah closed her eyes. "Not superior, just alive. And alive is enough." Back on Earth, humanity celebrated cautiously. Cities cheered, but there was no real certainty. The Zeldar were gone. The architects were broken. But the universe had proven one thing: humans could survive the impossible. Creativity, courage, and unpredictability had become their greatest weapons. Aiden looked at a news feed. Children played in the streets, soldiers returned to their families, and survivors of the first battles rebuilt what had been lost. But he knew, the war might not be over. The architects might return, evolved, or hidden somewhere else. He turned to the council. "We have a choice now: rebuild, prepare, and continue to grow stronger. Humanity survived when nothing thought it could. That's our strength." Meanwhile, Lia Zhang, back on the pod, looked at the black void where the lattice had been. She knew the victory was temporary. The architects were ancient. They had survived eons, and there could be more. But humanity had something they didn't: heart, unpredictability, and the will to fight for every life lost. And that was enough. The universe was quiet again, for now. The universe was silent again, but it felt different. The stars seemed sharper, brighter, as if watching humanity's survival with quiet respect. On Earth, people emerged from the shadows of war. Cities rebuilt. Fields were replanted. Oceans recovered. Humanity had faced annihilation and survived. Deep underground, in the Andes base, Dr. Aiden Holt stared at the monitors. Lia Zhang's pod had returned, carrying her battered body and the last signals from the destroyed lattice. She was weak, but alive. Humanity had won, at least for now. General Kovacs, standing beside Aiden, shook his head slowly. "We destroyed a god machine. And yet, I can't stop thinking, what if there are more?" Aiden nodded. "Maybe there are. But humans survived the Zeldar, survived the architect's first awakening, and will survive again if we have to. Survival is what we do best." Lia Zhang, now stabilized, spoke quietly. "The architects, they weren't evil. Not exactly. They existed to contain chaos, to maintain balance across the galaxy. But they miscalculated humans. They didn't expect creativity, courage, or unpredictability." Aiden listened carefully. "So, their mistake was underestimating us?" Lia nodded. "Yes. And that's the lesson. No matter how advanced or powerful a being is, it can never predict the human heart. We survive because we fight, because we adapt, because we hope, and sometimes, hope is stronger than any weapon." Across the world, humanity felt a shift. Technology returned, slowly, safely. Artificial intelligence re-emerged, but humans now understood one important truth: technology alone cannot protect them. Only human creativity, courage, and cooperation could. Children played in streets once filled with rubble. Soldiers returned to their families. Scientists studied the stars again, but now with respect, not fear. Humanity had learned to balance ambition with caution. And though the threat of the architects lingered somewhere in the cosmos, humans had proven one truth: they would not be ruled. They would not be extinguished. In orbit above Earth, small human ships patrolled quietly. Some searched the remains of the starbreaker debris, recovering data, technology, and knowledge. Others studied patterns in deep space, trying to predict the architect's next move. Humanity had become stronger, smarter, and more united than ever before. Commander Lia Zhang stood on the bridge of a rebuilt human vessel, staring at the stars. "We survived the impossible," she said softly. "And we'll survive the next impossible too." Behind her, engineers worked tirelessly to improve ships, weapons, and defenses. But the spirit of humanity was the real weapon, one that no alien empire, no god machine, and no force in the galaxy could ever fully control. Meanwhile, in the dark reaches of space, faint pulses of the architect's essence remained. They were not destroyed, only fractured. Ancient, powerful, patient. But they had learned something critical: humans cannot be predicted. And that lesson would echo through the galaxy. They are alive. They are unpredictable. They cannot be contained. The galaxy had changed. Humans were no longer just one species among many. They were survivors. They were fighters. And they were a force that even gods would hesitate to challenge. On Earth, celebrations continued, but in quiet corners, people reflected on the cost. Families mourned those lost to the Zeldar. Cities remembered the fallen. And yet, every human, young and old, felt a new pride, a species that had faced annihilation not once, but twice, and had survived both. Lia Zhang walked outside, breathing the fresh air, feeling the sun on her face. She thought of Captain Ryan Cole, the first human lost to the Zeldar. His sacrifice had started this journey. Humanity had honored him, not just with revenge, but with survival and hope. She smiled faintly. We are human. And as long as we are, nothing can take our future. The universe went on, vast and mysterious, full of threats, stars, and civilizations. But humanity now had a story written among the stars, a story of courage, ingenuity, and the unbreakable will to survive. And somewhere in the dark void, the fragmented remnants of the architects pulsed quietly. Waiting. Watching. Learning. But knowing this, humans could not be erased. They could only be challenged, and humanity would always rise to meet that challenge. The war was over. The battle for survival had been won. But the story of humanity, unpredictable, courageous, and alive, had only just begun. White heavy check mark the end.